Hey everybody, this is Ty and welcome to Random Things, where I share with you my random urban projects that I get myself into as I live in suburbia. Don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe, and get notified of my next projects as I post them. Without further ado, let's get to it. Hi everybody, welcome back to part 2 of the Jupiter Defiant e-bike review. In part 1 we unboxed it and I share with you a little bit of the assembly issues. In part 2 what I like to do is actually go into a little bit more detail of all the things that we had to assemble in order to get the bike ready for the road, and then some of the issues I encountered during the assembly, as well as some of the initial operational aspects of the e-bike. So let's get to it. So when the bike first comes, right, the wheel is off to the side, the handlebars are folded down, the handlebars itself is kind of disconnected, and the seat's out. So you have to insert the wheel. What took a long time for me, and part of it is just because I'm not a professional bike assembly person, was putting the bike and slipping the disc into the brake assembly. That took me a little bit of time because I was not familiar with how to adjust it, and the brake disc kept rubbing. And so it took me a while to get that figured out, but I did eventually. The second thing that you have to put on is the light and the fender assembly. One of the things that took a while was figuring out how to put the light and mount it with the bracket that comes with the fender assembly. Without the fender assembly, it actually goes pretty quick, but with the fender assembly, it gets real tight in there. The other thing that happens too is once I have the fenders on there, the light seems to point a little high. It's hard for me to adjust it down because it keeps hitting the top fender. So I have a decision to make. Do I want to keep the fender? Let's face it, I'm almost 50 years old, and what I'm really using this bike for is just cruising around the neighborhood and going down the bike path at the beach. If anything, I want to go fast so I can make my kids pedal hard and get them to exercise. But I don't really want to exercise. I just want a fun bike. So, do I really need a fender? Am I going to get that crazy? Probably not. So, to make my life a little easier, I may want to take the fender off. Setting up the handlebars, latching that in, that's pretty straightforward. It's just a couple of clips, lock it together. Back fender slips onto the gooseneck of the bike seat. That's pretty straightforward. You do have to assemble the kickstand, and that's pretty easy. That's just 2 bolts. And then you have to put the pedals on. All in all, took me about an hour. But again, I'm not a professional bike assembly person, so probably took longer than it needed to be. And so if you're pretty familiar with bikes, you may have a lot easier time. You probably get it done in 20-30 minutes. Okay, so let's talk about some of the initial performance and what I've learned. There are 5 pedal assist modes on this e-bike. In pedal assist mode 1, what I found is as I'm cranking steadily, it's about 12 miles an hour. And each successive pedal assist adds about 3 miles an hour. And so it goes then to 15, 18, 21, 24-ish when you get to pedal assist 5. Once you get there, it's pretty fast. It's zooming. It's pretty fun. Now, I did try how fast it would go without pedaling and just full throttle, full energy. Initially, I got about 23 miles an hour. But then when I did it again with a fully charged battery, I did get to about 26 miles an hour. I don't know how long that will last, because obviously, again, that's with a full charged battery. When I get some more road data, I'll share that most likely in part 3. Now, I did let my son ride this bike, and he's about 80 pounds. I'm about 200 pounds. Now, an 80-pound kid riding this bike without pedaling and just cranking the throttle, he was able to get it to about 28 miles an hour. And I think that it'll probably stay there for a while, given how light my son is. So if you got a light kid, or you itself is pretty light, you may be able to ride this pretty fast for a long time. So far, the bike has been very fun. The headlights are pretty bright. We rode it at night. I did add an aftermarket little phone mount. That way I can kind of have easy access to my my cell phone in case I needed to see maps or whatever. And it fits in the space available pretty easily. It does have a horn. It's pretty loud and obnoxious, but I don't know if I'm ever going to use it, but you can hear it now. Okay, so with that, that's part 2 of the Jupiter Defiant review. Again, I do have the Electra XP on order. It's anywhere from 6 to 8 weeks for delivery. Probably get here in about 4 weeks. So by that time, hopefully I'll have a lot of the issues vetted out with this bike, and then I'll be able to compare it against the Electra, and then that way you can get a head-to-head comparison between the Defiant, the Jupiter Defiant, and the Electra XP Step 3.